What is up, guys and girls? It has Ben here. So, I decided to try something a little bit different. Um, I am starting my own weather YouTube channel because I have a huge passion for weather. Um, I did this a long time ago, but I had school to balance. And I'm seeing, how far I could go with this. You can see we're looking at goes 16 here. Or goes east, or is it goes 18? I forget. I think it goes 16. Um, so yeah, we're just gonna, you know, see how far this can go. I have pretty good knowledge of how weather works. I have a channel, an old channel called Ben Weatherly. I was probably like 12 or 13. I am 25 now. Isn't that crazy? Wow. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get into the weather. So, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the HRRR. Not the HRRR, GFS. As many of you know, we have had an active stretch of severe weather across most of the United States, especially the eastern portion of the United States. Places like Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama. Um, just horrendous last couple days that those areas have been going through. And we have a little bit of a small severe weather system there, basically the remnants of what was our big event. Just passing through the southeastern United States. We'll have one more day after today of that. In fact, let's take a look at the HRRR, the 0Z HRRR. And you can see we have our little small scale system here, the remnants of our old system. And as we go throughout the next couple of hours, you'll see we get some additional renewed development behind the low. We have pretty much a stalled low here. This front is not going to be moving a whole lot. It's going to be moving, but it's going to be moving very slowly. And you can see it just kind of sits as it slowly slips off the east coast. And you can see we have some supercellular development there across Georgia. Damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes will be the primary threat with that. In fact, we can take a look at the Storm Prediction Center here. You can see we have a slight risk. This is for this evening. Current time is 9:30 p.m. Central. And you can see we have a slight risk for in the yellow shaded region that includes portions of southern Alabama from Dothan over to Mobile. We have the dark green, that is a marginal threat for severe weather. That includes cities like Columbus, Georgia, Tallahassee, Florida, Mobile, Alabama, not quite New Orleans. And then we have the general thunderstorm risk, which is a lot larger. Here's the wind threat. You can see 5% for wind. Hail, nothing for hail. And tornadoes, we have a small 5% for tornadoes, which basically encompasses that slight risk. Now we go into the day 2 outlook. This is basically tomorrow. You can see we have a slight risk that includes portions of south central South Carolina into portions of eastern Georgia and into the panhandle of Florida. That includes cities like Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Savannah, up to near Charleston and Columbia. And that is a slightly more elevated threat for severe weather, not by much. Damaging winds, we have a 15% chance for wind. Hail, we actually have a 5% chance for hail. And then for tornado, another 5%, of quite large 5% risk there for tornadoes. Day 3, we have just a very small marginal threat across the south coast there of Florida, the Keys of Florida, basically, south of Miami, Key West, Florida, Marathon, Florida, Key Largo, Florida. And then the days 4 through 8 time frame. You can see the day 4, we have a predictability too low, which essentially means that there could be a risk of severe weather, but we're not exactly sure where or how severe it will be at the moment in time. Day 5, we have another predictability too low. Day 6, we have another predictability too low. Day 7, another predictability too low. And then day 8, another predictability too low. So we could see more severe weather events going throughout the next couple of days. We just need more information at the present time. In fact, I will go ahead and go to the GFS here and show you our next couple of days here. So you can see we have our um, system down here on the southeast portion of the US. We have a high over here dominating the central part of the US. That's going to keep things quiet for a little bit. We'll see that low slowly move its way out. We have a high billowing in for a good majority of the country for a short period of time, which makes sense. You typically have a high following a low pressure system until another low kicks that high out. Moving on, we have sort of a ridging pattern here. You can see we don't really have that troughiness that we had before. In fact, let me go to the, I guess I can go to the 500 millibar level. You can see, like prior to before, you can see this is what we had earlier, and you can see a deep trough. That is a positively tilted trough that came in through the United States, very deep positively tilted trough, and that brought our risk for severe weather. But now as we go throughout the next couple of days, I mean, we do have a little system here, but we're not seeing those big troughs that we saw before. I guess that's not really a ridging pattern, but it's you don't have those big troughs that are dominating, you know, half of the country. We have these small systems that sort of move on in. We have this system here. This would be April 10th. You can see the top here. That is the time there in Central. This would be April 10th. In fact, let me look at Cape and wind. Not a whole lot going on there. So not much of a severe weather threat. I mean, there might be a small severe weather threat. Looking at Cape and wind, there could be a slight severe weather threat, but it's not going to be much. Usually the right part of a low, you don't really see development. You try to look for the left side of that low pressure system, and we're not seeing a whole lot of instability over there. So let's go back to the reflectivity here. Moving on, we have this system here that moves on through. That would be for the weekend of the 11th. That is Friday. So the end of the week, the end of this upcoming work week. That moves on through. We have another low tracking up through the northeast, and that would probably be a nor'easter during the winter time, but considering we're in spring, just some rain, maybe some light to moderate snow for central PA. Going on through, we have another low, and you can see, we're like I mentioned before, we're not getting into that pattern where we have these big troughs that are just coming through like we had last week. We're not seeing these big old troughs that dominate half the country. Those are the ones that we watch for huge severe weather events, and we're just not seeing that. We're just getting these smaller systems that kind of move through. That one looks fairly impressive there. This is only the GFS, though. We'll take a look at the Euro in a moment. We have a low here that moves on through. Not much going on with that. It's very far north, so we're not really going to be able to see any sort of development with that. It's not the most intense low either, 997 millibars. So not a whole lot going on with that. Moving on through, there's a 989 low. That's fairly impressive. Looking at Cape, there's a little bit of a tongue of moisture there. We'll watch that. That could bring a severe weather threat. That would be the 14th of April. So about a week from now, maybe slightly over 1 week from now. Moving on through, we have that low go through. And then we have another low try to move in here. This would be April 18th. You can see a 997 there. That would probably bring a severe weather threat for portions of the southern plains, places like Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas. And going back to Cape, and you can see that is a very large amount of instability making its way in there. That would definitely bring a risk for severe weather, maybe a couple days of severe weather on that date, which is still over a week and a half from now, so it's a little bit far out. In fact, let's take a sounding right here. And Yeah, quite impressive. We do have a little bit of capping, but surface-based cape 2300, that is plenty enough. You only need about 1,000 joules per kilogram to support severe weather between 200 and 300 meters squared per second squared SRH. That is pretty favorable as well for rotating thunderstorms. D-cape 1172. And you can see photograph, pretty impressive. You have that turning with height, and these would be surface based. 74 over 65, that would suggest a more surface based thunderstorm threat. Typically, we want the temperature. The temperature is the red line, dew points are the green line. And if you have those two units, those two measurements, about 10 degrees different, you typically see surface based thunderstorms. And surface based storms would have a higher threat for tornadoes as opposed to elevated storms, which would have a dew point spread. Like, let's say the temperature was in the 80s and you had the dew point in the 60s, that would suggest more of an elevated storm mode. But the fact that we have only a temperature dew point spread of that suggests maybe a more surface based sort of situation there. And that's where the GFS ends. Let's take a look at the European model here. You can see there's our system trailing off the eastern coast. Moving on through, we have that low right there. Not as impressive as the GFS run. Actually, let's take a look at the 12Z Euro here because it goes further out. So there's our system there. We have our next system. Again, not that as impressive compared to the GFS. That moves on through. We have that 997 low. And then we have this low here. So the Euro agrees with the GFS that we could see that start to appear around April. This is April 17th, so it's slightly earlier on the European compared to the GFS. So we'll have to watch that. Again, that's still very far out. So nothing much to get worried about right now. Just something to keep in mind. Because we need a break from severe weather. You can see our storm reports here. These were the reports from today, but if we go back in time, you can see tornadoes for Mississippi. This is the 4th of April. Tornadoes across most of the southern central United States. And then, of course, the big day. This was April 2nd. Huge day for severe weather. 73 tornado reports, 548 wind reports, and 210 hail reports for a total of 831 weather reports. That is just incredible. Just a crazy day for severe weather, and you'll be glad to know that we have a break at last from this. Um, so there are probably going to be more severe weather threats in the future in the short term. Well, short to midterm. The good thing is, next couple of days and probably the next week, we're not seeing a whole lot. Actually, in fact, let me go back to the GFS while I'm at it. I want to go ahead and look at the temperature anomalies because it's quite impressive. These are temperature anomalies. Come on. There we go. One thing I want to show you. Here's our temperature anomalies. You can see a cool down is definitely going to be in store for the United States. Earlier, we were dealing with a very warm pattern across the United States. But as we go throughout the next couple of days, you can see that cold air really funneling itself in. These are temperatures that are below the normal for this time of the year. And you can see most of the southern United States well below average. If we took a look at the temperatures themselves, 50s, mid to upper 50s, 40s, and 30s across the majority of the central U.S., which is well below average. Keep in mind, this is at 1 p.m., which is quite impressive. This was 1 p.m. today. April 6th, we'll go out further in time. You can see this is overnight tonight. So basically, early tomorrow morning, freezes up here in the northern plains, states like Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, northern Iowa, and most of the south central United States in the mid to upper 30s. very below average. You can see the only place that's not seeing below average temperatures is, of course, down here in the south, the southeast, where that cold front has not yet impacted. But once the cold front does move through, you'll see that area get swooped and their temperatures fall as well. Going through the next couple of days, you'll see a majority of the eastern U.S. still below average. We'll see a little bit of a revamp back to above average, but it's not going to be there for long. You'll see this is part of our next system. If you remember earlier, we had that system coming through the Great Lakes, and that is what that below average temperatures are caused by. And you can see just a nice cool side for the east and warm for the west. When you typically see that, that is associated with a lot less active weather. When you see a cool east and a warm west like that, you typically want to see a warm west or warm east and a cool west as opposed to this. So you'll see, and you can see we're starting to get a little bit more of that. There's some warmer temperatures there, and that would be our system on the 14th. But you can see just that pattern is just kind of staying with this cold air is just sticking around. It's not wanting to go away. And if we continue to see cold blasts like that with very little warmer days, we're not really going to get that big severe weather threat because we're not going to have enough days to heat up that atmosphere, get it primed for severe weather. So definitely a good sign. If you don't want severe weather, things look fairly inactive for the next week. But if things ramp back up, you'll know. I'll let you know. So yeah, that's going to be it for this first video here. I'm hoping that I can get more of these going because I want to start a weather career here on YouTube. And I think that's going to be a really good habit for me and a really good, I guess, hobby. Not really a habit, a hobby. So if you enjoy the content, please hit subscribe. It'd be really be appreciated. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.